just gonna go. Okay, got it. Welcome back to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and I'm joined again by my good friend Jojo Michalowski.
Mikolasik.
Michalashis.
Michaelasik.
And we have another really amazing, fantastic, someone I immediately liked as soon as I saw her. Why don't you introduce Kristin?
Yes. So, Kristin Johnston, author, starseed, sacred space maker, soul bringer together. I was brought into her sacred space by divine design when we were looking for a venue for Ascension Together's first event, which was Alan Steinfeld's
Right, I should actually introduce
workshop.
you too.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
the head of Ascension Together, the organization that accelerates people's ascension here.
I like that.
Well, I think that's what you
Thank
do.
you.
So you were looking for an event for your organization, Ascension Together, and there's a website for Ascension Together, right? Ascension. Dot.
AscensionTogether.org.
So you were looking for a space to do that, and you found.
And I found quantum health and wellness. And because the logo, right, is that beautiful flower of life, I was just immediately attracted to it. It was the first place that I clicked on in the Google search. It was the first email I sent out, my first choice. And Kristin and Lori responded within, I think it was an hour. And we're making history since then.
You have been making history, and Kristin, it was so great. I did a little presentation about my book, Making Contact, at Kristin's store, and we did some remote viewing, which was kind of magical to do that remote viewing.
Very powerful.
So you've been on an amazing journey, and you wrote this book, Heal the People, which is really your transformation, but also your message. So do you want to tell a little bit of the story, but go into like the bigger vision as well of what you're here to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So it seems like it's such a large mission. It feels like really big in my heart, but it all started with a desire to heal myself, right? Sort of this like knowing in my soul that there was purpose and there was meaning. And even though my life wasn't exactly reflecting that at the time, I knew the seed was there. So yeah, lots of things, kind of always spiritually seeking, but led me to an energy medicine mystery school. This desire to heal myself. I ended up in this energy medicine mystery school where I started learning at a really young age a lot of like just gaining a lot of wisdom and being introduced to a lot of this mystical sort of consciousness expanding techniques. And that was sort of like this catalyst, right, for beginning to transform myself and become the type of person that I knew I was capable of becoming. And so there was a point in my healing journey where I decided to experience plant medicine, a really powerful plant medicine. And while I journeyed with that plant medicine, I was given a vision. And it was probably the most life-altering experience that I've had. And the vision was of it was the cover of a book. And the cover was the title, Heal the People. And there was all these people around the book chanting, heal the people, heal, like louder and louder, till I actually sat up and I looked at the woman who was providing the medicine and I said, I think I just saw the first book that I'm going to write. And I'll just never forget the vision, because it really sent me on this epic spiritual quest to figure out what does that even mean, right? Because at this point, I'm just trying to heal myself. Like, how do you deliver that message to people? And so I've spent the past, 10 years kind of like distilling that, like figuring out like what does it actually mean to heal people? So that's everything that I've learned over the past decade is sort of what's delivered into that book,
But what was the beginning of your spiritual journey, you wanted to heal, but how did you even tune into like the spiritual path? How did you even know there was a place to go?
That's a great place to start. I think it was like I always was curious, even when I was a little kid, I was curious about past lives and reincarnation, and sort of, I wanted to know like where I came from before I came here. So I was always sort of like mystical minded, I guess. And then, I read the book, The Secret, and that book was the first introduction to this concept that my thoughts had an influence over my reality. And when I read that, the awakening it wasn't like I learned it. It was like I remembered it, like somewhere in my soul, I already knew that. And so reading it just reawakened, and I started to remember who I was as a soul. And that was really the beginning of this epic shift in consciousness, where I started to meet all these other people who were on that same frequency of like, my thoughts influence my feelings, influence my reality. And so it really started with just introduction to this concept that I was actually a creator. And at that point in my life was really a mess. So it's kind of like, oh, well, at least I know I'm creating the mess. Can I also create something different than the mess? And that was the beginning of realizing that I had creative power, potential.
So then you took this plant medicine, and what, I mean, you don't have to go into the specific, but what was it that the plant medicine, did it open like the consciousness? What did it do for you?
Yeah. So learning that I was a creator of my reality brought me to the energy medicine school, where I really started learning about all of this, that this concept that, we are the powerful creators of our reality. And once I decided that I was going to take my power back, that meant I had to drop a pretty long-standing addiction, which was what led me to the plant medicine. So the plant medicine I used to free myself of an opiate addiction. That was my intention with the plant. And so not only did the plant helped me do that, it freed me from that sort of like the chains of the experience of addiction, but it also showed me a lot of things. It showed me like past lives that were still influencing me in my present life. And again, showed me sort of like the vision of who I could actually become, if I applied this wisdom.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's always interesting to talk to people who've gone through addictions, and you've had experiences, to see like the personality that they were is not, they're the same person, but the whole sense of
the addicted self versus the healed self, or the recovered self.
It's a total, like you wouldn't this person you are now would not have been recognized by that person you were, right?
No.
How does that happen? What happens to the person?
You remember who you are as a divine spark, as a co-creator. You remember that you're worthy of health and wellness and goodness, and you are good and you are whole, that you don't need an external substance to make you whole.
That's the key.
Wait, so how come everyone doesn't, how come we don't know that? How do we get caught up in that other Maya-ism?
I think that the soul has to be ready. I really do believe that, like, to really get it from this level of consciousness, this holistic perspective, I think the soul has to want and desire that transformation. David Hawking says something, I'll probably butcher the quote, but it's something along the lines of, what the addict is seeking is not to be, like, they're not to be ashamed of it. So they're seeking that same level of freedom that mystics and, saints seek. He says, basically change your tactic, not the aspiration, right? So if we could learn about the desire that the addict is seeking, it's freedom, right? So we're just using methods that may become detrimental, but we're seeking that state of consciousness that's free from fear, free from guilt, free from shame. We're just using a substance. But if you could learn to recreate the state of consciousness without the use of an external aid, just like Jojo said, and if you can remember that the state is always available, the state of consciousness that we seek is always accessible to us. We just have to change our tactic for achieving it. And then you can get those feelings of peace, that liberation, and it's clean. You know, it's different.
How do we, I mean, I guess this is your work now. How do we make this awareness available to everyone? I mean, including addicts and just people who
Heal the people.
How do we heal the people? I'm asking you.
I've been asking that question ever since I saw the vision.
Do you have a cover of the book there?
I do. Hold on.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
I'll get it.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so how do we heal the people, right? How do we reconnect people with their own soul? Because that is the healing. We don't heal the people. We show people the way to healing by being the way, by being in alignment with our own soul. It's like resonance, right? So if you've got, tuning forks, if you've got tuning forks in the same room and you strike a C note, if you've got another tuning fork on that note, it's going to come into resonance. So therefore, like if I come into resonance with my soul and Jojo comes into resonance with hers and you come into resonance with yours, we become like tuning forks. And then people who come into our field will reverberate soul back to soul. And I think that that's the key. Like, I think that's the way we do it. We can just show people the way by reclaiming ourselves, because we're all so incredible and we're all so unique that my soul is going to express itself maybe differently than yours, but the frequency that comes through, which is like love, creativity, positivity, optimism, those vibrations, those qualities is what emanates and awakens in other people.
But who was that other person? How did she act? How was her mindset? I mean, what was the motivation? I mean, maybe yes, to seek freedom, but what was the difference between who you are and how would you describe that person? I'm just curious.
I was still me. Like, even when I was an addict, I was still reading. I was the person, in the basement reading spiritual books, like devouring them. So I was still seeking that same liberation, that same freedom that I seek to share with others today.
Yeah, just curious, where was that shift? Where was like from reading and still doing what you're doing to like saying something else?
Well, for me, it was being introduced to a tribe of like-minded people. So I don't think I really wanted to come down into being human. Like, I hadn't accepted the mission because planet Earth, and this might sound, really out there for some people, but this is my truth. I didn't want to be human. For the first 23 years of being on the planet, I didn't want to be on the planet. So my addiction, like, I was trying to get out of my body to get back to spirit. I didn't quite understand the mission yet, that the mission was to bring spirit into the body. So I think that really was the origins of my addiction, was just like really trying to I was still trying to escape. But then when I found the energy medicine school, I was surrounded by people that made me feel safe, that made me feel like it was okay to be me. It was okay to be spiritual. It was okay to be esoteric. It was basically okay to be extra, it was
extraterrestrial, right? Yes.
Exactly. To feel like I was from another planet and I just showed up on this one for a reason. And they helped me start to remember my reason. And then once I allowed myself to remember, then I didn't need the external stuff anymore. And that's when I decided to do the plant medicine to drop the addiction.
And it's always so interesting, transformation. I just love those stories. And was there a moment where you said, "Oh, that's right"? It's like a redirection. Was there that moment of like, there it is on maybe the plant medicine journey or something where it's like you redirect the course of your consciousness?
I think it was a gradual. I don't think it was like an instantaneous. I think it had been growing. This sort of like
Can you talk about when your Kundalini, the spontaneous Kundalini
Oh, that's good.
rising came into play here?
Yeah, so that happened after I did the plant medicine. After like a decade of really polluting my body with all sorts of, alcohol and substances, I think I had done a number on my liver and my detox organs. And so I started to have like physical ailments, right? And I started to really pay attention to holistic nutrition. And I decided that I would do this really radical raw vegan diet. And so for 90 days, I only ate like raw food, like juices and smoothies and salads and nothing of like density. And so I had this spontaneous spiritual awakening where there was really like 9 days of kind of like non-dual consciousness. And it was like this visceral experience of like everything is love, sort of like above this human, it's almost hard to put it into words, but like above this human good and bad, right and wrong sort of duality consciousness, there exists this soul level, like this unity, this love. And in those moments, those days of sort of non-duality, I really, really remembered like, oh, this is the energy that I'm here to bring forth, like to remind people that this is true and this is accessible. Like we all can achieve this state of consciousness, even in our human.
And then what happened with the Kundalini? Describe the Kundalini actually sensation and awakening from that state.
Well, it felt like I was just vibration. I was just literally like so much energy. Like I felt like a lightning bolt. Like there was just this charge of energy that was just completely moving. It's interesting because I actually feel it right now. Like I'm almost like chattering a little bit because I can feel the same thing.
I feel it too. Do you feel it? We feel it. I think it's happening around the planet though, where there's a shift in vibration.
And also when like-minded souls, like we're soul tribe, we're soul family, right? We were brought together. And when beings of the same nature or that recognize love is our essence, the non-dual aspect that remains after everything else, it awakens that. And there's this little dance that goes on inside of your body, and that divine spark now becomes a flame, and then it's just on fire. So when we get together and our souls remember and recognize each other, it's hot and it's vibrating and it's tingly and it feels warm.
But I also think right now there's an additional acceleration.
Collectively.
Yeah, and on the planet itself, these Earth vehicles are being raised up somehow.
Sure.
Increased.
Ascension.
Yes, it's ascension together, just like you said. So where's your work go now? I mean, so you've had this awakening and now talk about heal the people. Like, how did you figure out what that meant and what are you doing about it?
Well, the first step is really to write the book, right? To like get all of this understanding of what it means to be human and share it with people, because we incarnate into these bodies and no one gives us a user's manual. Like no one tells us how that it's going to need to be adequately nourished and hydrated. And yeah, we get the basics, but really we don't learn from what people tell us. We learn from what we see and what we observe. And most of us didn't really observe really healthy, conscious people who know how to communicate, who know how to interpret their own emotions and share those, in a way that's appropriate. Like we didn't all get that. We're not all that fortunate. So we have to learn it. And we have to choose to learn it. That's the thing about it, is if you don't make the conscious choice to learn those things, it's almost inevitable that you just hit the repeat button and then you just repeat what you got downloaded with, so kind of the mission and the message of Heal the People is to like, how do you human on every level of consciousness, right? So like, how do I take care of a physical vehicle? How does it need to be loved and nurtured? And how do I express like all of this energy and motion, these emotions that move through me? How do I flow with them? and then this desire for power, right? Like we've all got this ego, this like, how do I navigate that? What does it mean? How did I get, like, what does it mean to have a healthy personality as opposed to one that might become toxic? And then like above, like the heart, like how do I develop compassion and empathy and forgiveness and sort of like these higher spiritual aspirations? And then how do I share everything that I've learned? How do I communicate myself? How do I communicate effectively? How do I really listen to other people and express myself creatively? And then like my psychic, my intuition, how do I learn to awaken that? How do I learn to trust that? This part of me that's capable of picking up information from the invisible field and sort of like downloading that into images and like the pineal gland is incredible. How do I activate that baby? And then how do I serve, right? Like my crown, like how do I serve something greater than me? How do I let something that is greater than me move through me and birth itself in the world, right? Like how do I be a beacon of light onto a planet that's so desperately needing light? That's Heal the People. And how do I embrace all of me as a human, not just as a body, but as a spirit? How do I integrate those two things and create heaven on earth?
You're doing it, you're living it, you're not just talking about it, you are embodying it. Just like you, Jojo, you're embodying that bliss in a way.
I think when we identify and start to tap into I am presence, the lenses change, because as you're looking to serve a power greater than yourself, you're also acknowledging that it's also your self, your higher self, higher intelligence, right? So when Kristin is speaking to serving, the crown is I am. And if we are to serve the collective, we damn well better be serving ourselves to our greatest, highest potential, right? Treat yourself as you would, treat your brother.
Yeah, we have such a beautiful vehicle of consciousness, of form, of possible spirit that it wants to be honored. It wants to be. Is that sort of the difference maybe between the addict, I don't know, and like where you are, is that the addict doesn't acknowledge those parts,
The divine,
and the body, and I can't say.
I love Carolyn Mace's work with archetypes, right? And I think that the addict is just an archetype, right? And I think it's one that's time has come for us to and that's why there's so many addicts on the planet, is because they're needed right now, because the addict in its shadow really exemplifies kind of a loss of power, right? Sort of like the addict gives its power away to substances outside of the self. But the alternate expression of the addict is total power, right? So there's a light side to that archetype. We've just only focused on the shadow of the addict, and so it has this heavy sort of energy. But if we can just shift the energy of the addict and we can shine the light of awareness on it, the addict who alchemizes addiction becomes a source and sort of a beacon to show others what it means to be truly powerful, to take your power back and to create the life that you desire. And they show other people the way, addict or not. They show other people that, well, if I can take my power back and I can change my life, it's really a third chakra. It's a sense of personal power. When you see someone who's gone through recovery, not even just addiction, but say someone had cancer, or say someone had a disease, or say someone went on a weight loss journey, or anything that requires personal will and applied discipline, they show other people what's possible. And I think that's kind of like the lighter side of the addict, is that they can really kick ass and show other people the way to do it.
So did that give you the energy then and the will to empower your vision that came to you, that sense of
Because you started writing this book 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been a journey, Kristin.
Yeah.
and now it's published. But just also tell people how to get it, because I want people to read Heal the People, because the more people that read it, the more people will be healed. So
So right now it's available for pre-order. It should be available on Amazon, I believe, on the 10th. Right now you could order it through stillwaterbooksri.com. But in a couple of days, you can just get it right off Amazon.
and you are becoming a teacher in the consciousness field, just like Jojo. You are using that wisdom of experience, and you're so calm, Kristin. You're really dropped into some place of
It's taken me many years to figure out how to surrender to that, to drop into the body. I actually write a little story about that in the book. When I was going through that kind of spontaneous awakening, I had this dream. This one of my spirit guides my soul feet were all tucked up inside my belly, right? Like they hadn't come down onto earth. And this spirit guide was telling me, like, it's okay, it's safe, like you can come down now. And I was still like, I don't think so. I don't really trust you. And he just gently started pulling at these feet that were like they were my soul's feet. They were just up in
landing gear, right? It was like,
and
yeah.
As soon as I surrendered to that pull, like as soon as I was like, okay, I'll do it, I woke up from the dream. And that's when I knew, like, it is okay for us to be here now at this time. It's needed and it's necessary. And yeah, we're doing work.
It's also why we came. I mean, we came in body to enjoy the spacesuit here and to love it, and because it is the earth, we're here to love the creation.
Kristin, is this the same spirit guide that you shared with me that was of extraterrestrial origin?
So this particular one, he did not feel extraterrestrial to me. He was actually a very small Asian man. And so I felt like he was some type of, like he was very masterful, but he was really small. He was maybe only like 5 foot tall, like very small, kind of like long white beard, almost like a Miyagi kind of energy.
Yes.
But I think we have I think we have like a spirit team, I think we have guides.
So he appeared to you. How did that happen? What was
that was a dream, but I have seen him twice since, but it's very fleeting. One time.
Go ahead. One time.
Yeah, one time it was a sound bath here at Quantum, and he kind of just flashed in. He just showed up, and then he just disappeared. So,
and what does he say to you? I mean, it also reminds me of this statue I keep on my altar here, of this.
That's exactly, yes. So
was
that's
this
the
what he looked like?
Mm-hmm.
Really, yep. This like Lao Tzu, or somebody like that, but what did he say? What was the whole communication for you?
Well, that was really it. He was just encouraging me to incarnate fully, like basically don't half-ass it, like really come in down, ground yourself on
expression.
Exactly, like come down to the planet and claim this space, basically embodiment, right? So I write about that a little bit in Heal the People, sort of like this growing need for embodiment. Like we look around and we see all these adults and we see them, going to work and doing how many people are embodied? How many people are spiritually integrated into the body? And like you said, Alan, you said something about like, we're meant to love it, right? Like this is earth. We're meant to love the earth and love the body. How many of us have not actually claimed the physical body as our space? Probably not that many, genuinely.
And or they do it in ways that are just indulgent, pleasure,
not respectful,
sexual addiction. There's things where they use the body to escape the body. In a sense, the
spirit and body is still separate. They're not interfacing with homeostasis.
So how do you do it, Jojo? How do you integrate?
I lean in. I lean in over and over and over again, and just intuitively ask what my spirit wants to experience in this moment to moment as a human being, right? We're being in the human experience, and there was a thin line before of indulgence to being too modest, too withholding, too restrictive. I went through all that in the church, not allowing myself to have a fully integrated, blissful, full expression of me. And that takes so much self-reflection and personal development and seeking who are you outside of the indoctrination, who are you outside of programming and childhood traumas and what culture said you have to speak like and look like and express yourself like, and outside of the invisible box. Really love the shadow, Jojo, love the light, Jojo, just love all of it because it's a mirror of all of us. Then it's easy.
Well, then it just happens, right?
Then it just happens.
Then it's like, there you are, Kristin, in your divine, or Jojo, in your divine
self
presence, because you're present. I mean, I'm looking at you there, Kristin, and you are just there with all your being in the moment. I mean, yeah, you have a past and a future, but all that is like right there, and that's a healing in itself in that way.
I think that's what makes the most powerful healers are ones who can just be with themselves, with just like Jojo said, all of it, the shadow and the light, and embrace completely what it means to be in this human experience. Because as a human, we are all of it. We are bodies and we are spirits. We deserve pleasure. Pleasure is a birthright, but we're also twisted up. Our conditioning and our inheritance of what we inherited when we incarnated isn't necessarily our truth. It's generations and generations of programming. So like, we're here, I think, to reclaim what it means to be human now, not necessarily what it meant to be human 100 years ago.
Amen, girl.
Like,
well, then talk about that. Because I don't quite get that in a way, because when I say feel of being human, it's to and be in touch with the emotions and the compassion and looking at everyone and without judgment. So how has that changed now as opposed to what it was maybe 100 years ago?
well, so being human has been the same, but our conditioned beliefs around what it is to be human, right? So 100 years ago, women couldn't behave the way they do today.
Our permission has changed.
Yeah.
There's actually places where women still can't do what they want to do.
Exactly.
Declarations have changed.
So how do we adjust to the times, and what is the difference in being human now than to you, Kristin?
For me, it comes down to consciousness, right? So like, we have to become conscious of our unconsciousness. We have to allow our unconscious to come into the light of our awareness. And we do that by looking, by exploring ourselves and saying like, okay, where's my edge? Okay, so I have this belief. Is it mine? Did I inherit it? We have to be fearlessly self-seeking and really looking at, okay, what did I get downloaded with? And then what's worth updating, right? So you wouldn't buy a computer and then just keep the old program on it forever. When it was ready for an upgrade, you would upgrade it. And so we're just kind of ready for an upgrade. And we got to look at, what did I inherit that's not mine? What am I still playing? The tapes of my subconscious, because that's how we create our lives.
What's the old program on the computer that no longer serves us to be more communicative?
What's the upgrade?
Yes,
Exactly.
And do we have to let go of the old program when we upgrade? We do?
We go in, delete those files, and upgrade the truth.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so we upgrade again, right? I mean, there's always an upgrade.
Exactly.
But no, I just want to say what you and Jojo and some of the other people in the community are doing is really making it a priority. This is this is what I love about your work and the work you're doing in Provincetown with Steve, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Providence, Rhode Island.
Providence, Rhode
Yeah.
Island. Yes.
But this is our assignment. See, Kristin and Steve and I and you,
Yeah, we're
in
doing,
your way,
yes.
we got the assignment, and that's our priority.
That's what's so different to, and so when you meet someone who got the assignment, let's say, there's an instant recognition. It's like, oh, hi, where have you been? Thanks for showing up with the team. And
the universe calls us in to be able to have each other for support and inspiration and collaboration and resonance.
Exactly.
It's just, that's the divine design and the beauty of what love does when you are in alignment with your North Star, when you accept the assignment.
And so you're also creating a center around that, Kristin, right there in Massachusetts with the quantum store. What is it called?
Quantum Health and Wellness.
Quantum Health. Yeah, talk about that a little bit, because I want people to come to the store and see the beautiful crystals. And
it's so beautiful. You've walked in.
I've loved it.
As soon as I walked in the first time, the only word I could think to describe it was, oh, home. You walk into places and spaces and people and they feel like home.
But the weird thing is, it's in this like little strip mall type place, and it's like, okay, thanks for bringing me here, Jojo. And then you walk in, and it's just like, oh yeah, there's like you're stepping into another dimension when you go into that store.
So share what you have there.
They say be in the world, but not of it. Right. And I think that's kind of like when people walk into quantum, there is a vibration that's slightly different, because there was really no agenda other than to express the love that we've discovered and share it. Right. So like my husband's an artist, I'm an artist, and we just express what we love here. And then we invite anybody else who's tapped into what they love to come and express that. So quantum itself, it's like under the guise of a business, but really it's an expression of love and all of these teachers who love what they teach. So like we do sound baths, and the women who come and do our sound baths, they love sound and they believe in the power of sound to heal and to move energy. And so when they're here performing, like that love resonates in the space. And then when people come and teach workshops around energy medicine or meditations, or it's all just like, it's like love. And I think the remnants of love exist in the space, so it's, yeah.
I'll put it, what's the website? I'm going to put it in the live chat.
It's quantumhw.com.
Quantum HW means what?
Health and wellness.
Oh, I see. Quantum.com. Okay. So if anyone's in the, what is it? Western Mass?
Seekonk is next to Providence, Rhode Island.
Right. But let's get back to your journey and heal the people, because I really want to get that vision, heal the people. It's such like a declaration that you've put out into the world. How's it going? I mean, how's it going?
Well, it's quite the journey. It's what I find to be very fascinating about the title is I didn't pick it. Right. It came through me. And I'll tell you guys this really interesting story is the energy medicine school that I went to 10 years ago it was much longer than 10 years ago now, but it was called the Healer Training Program. So HTP, right? Healer Training Program. And when I did plant medicine, all that showed up on the title of the book was HTP, but it didn't spell out Healer Training Program. It spelled out heal the people. And so there was this divine synchronicity that I could have never conjured in that state of consciousness, under this potent psychedelic. I could not have made that vision up. And so the title, I knew that was the first moment in my life that I really, truly recognized beyond doubt that there was a force that was far greater than me that wanted to like move through me and wanted to communicate with me. And if I was willing, like I could I could work with it to bring about a positive change in the world. And so I think Heal the People is going good because I think people are waking up. And I think that, like, I'm just one small part of it, right? This is a collective experience. This is so much, this is beyond the individual ego self. This is this collective, awakening of humanity, of human beings, remembering who we are, what we're capable of. It's a metamorphosis.
And it's just picking up momentum too. It's rapidly accelerating.
I would agree.
So where are we going? So the people are healing, but there's still war and, addictions and
there's still suffering.
What things doing?
Do you feel this is symptomatic of the dying off of these old paradigms as we shift from the 3D density where we need to be?
I think people who have experienced great suffering, if they've used it as an opportunity to grow, will tell you that suffering served them. Mm-hmm. So suffering is part of this experience of being human. Suffering exists, but can we somehow alchemize it? Like, I don't know. I can't say for sure that, this work will eliminate suffering from the world. What if we need the suffering to wake up? Yeah. And maybe if more people wake up and take their power back and reclaim the power of their consciousness and the power of their actions, then we will see a shift in the world. I can't say I know what that shift would look like.
How long do we have to keep suffering? I'm not saying we have an answer. Mm-hmm. No, I know. There's no answer for that.
Alan's like, when is Shambhala?
No,
when do we get there?
But people are suffering.
Yes.
I mean, there's 1 million people that had to leave their homes. And
this could be further conduit, like COVID was, for even more rapid, accelerated ascension on the planet.
Right.
What Kristin said is we need to rupture in order to heal. There needs to be a schism.
And what if what's happening is, so what if our consciousness is expanding so rapidly that all of the systems that are held in place by that limited level of consciousness are becoming so, like, it's getting so disruptive because
archaic.
Exactly. It's like, the Tower card in the tarot, right?
Yes.
So like the faulty foundations will crumble, and all of these foundations were put in place by this limited level of consciousness that is, I believe, seeing its way out. It no longer serves the growing collective, and collective consciousness
is not the narrative.
Exactly. And so we will see, it's almost like the old world already knows its time is up, and it's making a lot of noise on its way out.
Right. So, one of my favorite questions I'll ask you both is, what does the vision of the new world look like? How do people live? What's the commerce and the attitude? How does it feel when you project yourself into that future? Do you want to, Kristin?
I'll let Kristin go first.
Sure.
I without sounding utopia, without
Okay, you could sound we're talking about utopia, and
because I would love to see people return to what is sacred, right? Like life is sacred. If enough people genuinely, truly honor that and were willing to stand for that and really do the difficult work of redirecting their consciousness, right? That might change. It might mean we have to change the way we consume, right? The way that we shop, the way that we connect. Right. Like I see in my utopia, it's like we return to what's sacred. The farmers who practice certain types of agriculture that honor the planet, that honor the animals. We might have to really be disciplined in carving out like relationships that honor each other. Human beings have to be willing to participate in our own evolution. We can't just expect utopia to happen. We have to get serious about making our lives utopia, and then kind of like being leaders in a way that shows other people what's possible. I just, before you go, I just want to say utopia is really
getting us to the level playing field, what you've described, where we're, I would say, supposed to have incarnated into. So when we get there, I mean, my vision is that we become creators. We all become artists. We all become manifestors and creative individuals. That's what I see as.
What if we already are that?
We
What if
are that, but we come into a world where that's welcome, maybe.
we're doing that with a limited level of consciousness, with programs that are not ours, that are deliberately put there. Once people
Deliberately
recognize,
put there, yeah.
Right.
once people recognize that, like, okay, my thoughts are my most creative faculty. My mind is incredibly powerful. That means I need to fiercely guard it and not entertain things that may be destructive. Reality is just what's held within human consciousness pushed outward. Like the world that we're experiencing, we are all creating it. Bruce Lipton does this phenomenal talk, and he says, he says, holy crap, once you realize that like consciousness creates reality, and then you look outside to reality and you say, well, why the hell would I create that? I can't be creating that. Why would I be creating that? Well, you're creating that so you can wake up and stop creating that.
So how do you wake up and stop creating we just talked to John Stetson about that, but how do you do it, Kristin and Jojo?
Expanding your consciousness.
What does that mean? How do you expand?
Aware.
Yeah. You become aware of what seeds you plant, right? So if you plant a garden and you intend to plant roses or beautiful flowers, you tend it, right? That means you're aware of what's happening in your garden. Your mind is your garden. If you don't tend your garden and you don't intentionally plant anything, it's going to grow weeds.
Right. And if you pour like destructive, water on watching awful movies or
Garbage in, garbage out.
right,
As within, so without. As above, so below.
right, but then also the company you keep, not that we should judge anybody, but there's some people that you want to hang out with and some people you don't want to hang out with, right?
You
How
have
do
to be
you?
fiercely protective of your own consciousness.
Discernment.
Well, how do you let go of the people that that are been in your life that you're saying, I'm moving on, see you around, guys?
Well, maybe you don't have to necessarily let them go, but you have to become conscious of how they influence you. And then maybe as your vibration changes, you just no longer feel attracted to them anymore. Like I didn't deliberately let go of my friends who were addicts when I became a non-addict. They just vibrated out of my circle.
Yes.
Right. And now, I'm opening up. I'm attracting people like you guys that are a whole other frequency of this community. And I think I did have to let go of calling the people that weren't that were kind of felt like they were sucking my energies. Like, I mean, there's people like that.
And a lot of the time, it's just an allowing of the falling away.
Without holding.
We
right?
want to hold on to things, and until we clear that space for what is being attracted to come occupy this new clean space, we're not going to receive those blessings or gifts or abundance because we're still holding on to the old.
We have to be willing to let it go. Like we have to be willing to go through that temporary, almost like withdrawal period, right? Like
grief.
Yeah, before the new has been created, there's like this window where we wanna reach back and reconstitute what's familiar. Not because it's good or it's right, just because it's what we know. And human beings, we really don't like the unknown. We don't like the uncertainty. We like predictability. We like control. And so we have to go through that period of letting the old world fall away, like letting our old selves fall away. We can't keep clinging to it. If we cling to it, we recreate it. We have to become comfortable in the unknown. Surrendering.
Instead of recycling the same experiences.
Being
over
comfortable
and over.
in the unknown. I like that. My subtitle for New Reality is making known the unknown,
Yes.
which is what the adventure of incarnation was all about to begin with. But I'm looking at you, Kristin, and you seem very, very happy. You're very much at peace. But not to get too personal, but do things upset you? I mean, do you get thrown off?
I have a
What do
very
you,
powerful 7-year-old daughter who upsets me very much all the time.
but how do you get back to center? How do you, how do you deal with the upsets?
If you realize that everything is an opportunity to teach you. So one of my favorite things that I share and heal the people is these character structures, right? There's the ways that human beings live their lives, either in a defended place or in an easeful, flowing place. Mm-hmm. Everything is energy, right? We understand this. When we are present, our energy is flowing through us. We have this ease about us. We are in the present moment. But when we become overwhelmed or we become stressed out, we all have these energetic defenses. It's like ways that we try to deal with the overwhelm. Once we make those patterns conscious, then we can choose consciously, how do I want to redirect my energy right now? And if we can recognize that every single time something upsets us, what's upsetting us is we don't feel safe, whether that's our ego that it feels is being threatened, right? Like my powerful 7-year-old who really is like, wants to be in charge. And so if I'm really upset with her, I'm really just afraid at my own loss of perceived power that somehow I should, right? So if I can recognize that, I don't need to defend myself anymore. I can choose a better way to manage my energy, right? And we all do that. It's just energy. Manage your energy, manage your life.
So something comes up, you're 7-year-old, or someone cuts you off in traffic, or you're thrown off a little bit, and then what's the internal process of bringing back to center?
I think it's like, it's very kind of like yogic, right? Like, okay, what do I have right here, right now? What am I in control of? I'm in control of my breath, right? I can always signal to my body, like, I'm not threatened right now, my safety. And then you actually check in with yourself, right? Am I being threatened right now? Is my safety being threatened right now? Because in the case that it is, you may need to take a different action. Breathing might not be enough if you've got a car coming at you head on or something, So it's like assessing the situation as it is in this moment. Am I reacting to life right now, or am I unconsciously being triggered by something that was created in the past?
Right.
And so that's really the question, like, am I overreacting because I have a pattern of energy that's active in my energy field? Or is this kind of valid right now? Is my reactivity valid? Am I responding or am I reacting? And it's always, I think, getting calm, getting centered, being present, then you can really deal with life in this moment.
Beautiful. No, that's great. I mean, so you catch it faster, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you deal with like little upsets in the world?
Does this serve me? Yes or no?
But first you have a reaction,
Does this
right?
disrupt my peace? Yes or no? Really, I'm really intrinsically motivated by, am I going to have a beneficial moment or choose not to? Is this going to serve me in some way? Can I alchemize this? What is the transmutation needed right now? Because for me, Dr. Hawkins' map of consciousness is everything. And my goal is to consistently live above the line. And ideally, I want to be calibrated at 500 or more, because that's when I'm tapped into divine inspiration, creativity, flow. Life is effortless. And I'm surrounded by synchronicities, God's love language, when I'm calibrating around 500 or more.
How do you know when you're calibrating at 500? I mean, do you measure yourself, or you just feel
There's
it?
a calmness, there's a flow. I'm not attached. I'm living in my joy and surrounded by synchronicities and heavenly messages.
That's the key. That's the key.
The synchronicities, yeah.
Yes.
What were we saying, Kristin?
In his book, Power versus Force, and he writes about that, people who calibrate at these incredibly high levels of consciousness, they have these miraculous happenings around them all the time. And people are, questioning, oh, that person's lucky. It's like, no, that person is vibrating. They're experiencing They're making an intentional attempt,
Conscious choice.
yes, conscious choice to experience elevated states. Like
Yes.
that people don't realize we have a lot of choice. We make a lot of choices every single day. How do I respond to this?
Right. But wouldn't, I mean, not to sort of be the devil's advocate, but wouldn't everyone want to vibrate at the highest? Isn't that, why wouldn't we, everyone?
They need to then choose and commit to have a dedicated practice and put in the work to live in that frequency.
But what if you have a subconscious belief that that's not even possible? Like, what if you were raised in a way that you never even knew that? Like, I didn't know until I met the people in healing school. I didn't know that happy people who genuinely love their life, I didn't even have that contrast to know that was a thing until I experienced it. So people like us are incredibly important to remind the people who may have not had that experience that wizards do exist. You know, like magic.
You've become one. You've become a
Exactly.
wizard. Don't you feel that?
Deepak wrote the book, The Wizard's Way.
I was just thinking of Deepak.
I
Yeah.
love that book. I love that book so much because we have to remind people that love, when we are undefended, all of us, not just some of us, not just special people, every single one of us, when we live our lives in an undefended way, love is the result, because the soul is love. And the thing is, the conditions of our world do not necessarily determine whether or not love can flow through us. Viktor Frankl, in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, the conditions in which he lived were beyond what, you know what I mean? Like beyond what a human being should ever have to endure. But he was able to access that level of soul. So we can no longer believe that the conditions outside of us determine how we feel inside of us. We have to claim our power to create independent of our external circumstance.
And even when you're saying remind, I hear it as remind, right? Yes. Choose again the mind, reset, repeat, remind the mind, right? That there has to be a choose again. In Stephen, my Course in Miracles work, we talk about the transition from fear to love is the miracle, and we have to choose again as often as needed, over and over again, to choose love, and you remind, reset, repeat until your frequency is tuned to the channel that you seek.
That's the practice. That is the practice, the reminding, that's because we can always, there's things always pulling us, and we're confronting the reality.
Recalibrate.
But there's a world out there that may not be on the same frequency, that our choice is to either be pulled down or to pull it up, pull up the world.
Yeah, it's not easy. If it were easy, a lot more people would be doing it, right? But I think more and more people are, because the amount of people on the planet doing the work is accelerating, which makes it, more accessible.
Well, I just know a bunch of people who just like recently went to Poland to help with all the immigrants from Iran. I'm aware. Ukraine, that's right. From Ukraine. And these are people just going because they want to help. They see something that needs help, and I don't know how it's going for them, but they have chosen to serve in that way.
Yeah.
I think that's the goodness. Like, we have to remember that human beings in our core, we're good. And so we have to refocus, right? Because we get to choose. The only thing we have power over is our own consciousness. It's the only thing we can control. So what do I'm going to use my consciousness to highlight right now?
I just saw an amazing film called The Prison Within, by this woman, Catherine Hervey, and she went into prisons where people were there for murder on death row, and she did this practice saying, tell us about your childhood, what happened to you, and these guys are breaking down and crying and asking for forgiveness and realizing that they were just acting from an unconscious place, and it was so beautiful to see that healing, and to feel our own healing is possible too, no matter what we may have done, you know. So it's like what John was saying just before. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. That's a practice. That's a beautiful practice. So what is next for you, Kristin? Where are you off? I mean, what is like your, so you wrote the book, you have a beautiful center, you're exuding happiness. So what do you see?
I just want to create art. That's all I want to do. And so it's really difficult for me to pinpoint. Right now I'm illustrating a tarot deck because in this moment, that's what I love to do. So what I love changes all the time. But one thing that I can always say, when I'm in touch with my soul, it's always creative. It's always art. And if I can remind people that their lives are art, always, they are never not art, right? We are all the artists of our own lives. We are all creative. So I think what's next for me is reminding people of their own inner artistry and how to really look at their lives as a reflection of their creativity. When people say I'm not creative, yes, we are. We just don't always know what we're creating.
I believe we're all creative, absolutely. Is there like, did you find the book? Is the book near you? Because maybe you could read a little. We'll show the book, but also can you show the cover?
This is a proof copy, so you can see the
I love Expanding Human Conscious for Global Awakening. Heal the people. Can you read a little piece from that, maybe, like something that really just stands out? And because I want people to really get your communication that you're bringing through.
Okay, let me see.
If something just pops out at you, or you know.
All right. So I think we can all plainly see that our world is not well. In fact, we're very clearly in a state of collective disease. Not only are our political systems wildly out of balance, but our educational, agricultural, religious, ecological, economic, and social systems are struggling as well. The world that we're living in is not a reflection of a harmonious system. Rather, it's an intentional design that was created to benefit the few at the expense of the many, and we've just about reached our breaking point. Something must shift, and fortunately for us, the shift has already begun taking place within the hearts of humanity. People are waking up. Despite the apparent chaos on the surface, the conditions are finally ripe for a global awakening to take place, though the question remains, is humanity ready for this type of shift? There's an image I've recently seen floating around social media of a board game being played by a bunch of wealthy old men with white hair wearing business suits, the gameplay resting on the backs of human slaves. The truth concealed within the graphic image is profound yet simple. The slaves simply need to stand up and the game topples over. It's time for humanity as a collective to stand up against the injustices of our world. Only this revolution doesn't need to resemble the civil wars of the past that were fought against oppression. On the contrary, what must happen now isn't a fight against anything at all. Rather, it's a movement towards peace, a movement for unity. Today's revolution isn't a war at all. It's an opportunity for the maturation of the human race, an evolution in our consciousness. What's being asked of each of us is that we no longer choose to remain complacent, and that we no longer behave like toddlers waiting for someone else to take care of us or clean up the mess we've made. We must each become willing in our own way to take responsibility for ourselves, discover the truths of who we are, and live our lives as a powerful example of transformation and possibility. And this is how you can find the way. We are the way.
Beautiful. That is great. So, and then people can find the book where again?
Yes. So on the 10th, it will be available on Amazon.
And then you're going to be lecturing around the country about the book, hopefully?
Hopefully. That would be an exciting plan.
So the global awakening. So what you didn't answer? What does it look for you like the global awakening?
Yes.
Oh, utopia?
Yeah, you the global awakening. How does it look after we've globally awakened? I mean,
Well, we're communicating telepathically again. We have access to technology. The portals to other realms and inner earth are completely exposed to us again because our frequency is matching the frequency of the angelic realm and fairies and all of the wonderful kindred spirits that we're meant to coexist with. Maybe similar to Lemuria and Atlantis again, where we have galactic exchange and community relations and oneness, right? The oneness is again revealed to all.
actually, that's a really good point. Let's talk about that just a little bit. Do you have a little more time there? Because I think you made a really good point. Part of the global awakening is waking up to those other realms of existence.
Sure.
That's
Our frequency has to reach it though to even have access to it, and that is the ascension process. That's the goal
We
for
have
us
to wake
to
up the
be able to
heart.
coexist.
the heart.
Yeah,
But
we have
also,
to get beyond the human. We have to
Yeah.
get beyond the idea that we only need to focus on our human survival, right? Like power, sex, money. We have to evolve beyond the lower self.
and you know what? It seems like from what both of you are saying, when we do, these other worlds, these other dimensions, these other levels of reality are become present.
Right.
They're never not present.
They're never not present, but yes.
It's just our human that prevents us. It's just the fear, the guilt, the shame, the heavy densities, right? The psychic density is what prevents us from realizing those states. Those states are already available. They're here right now.
They're all around us.
Yes, a new earth already exists. It's already right now. Human beings have to evolve to see it. That means we have to do the work of getting beyond the lower self that still craves and claims material and power. And not to say that those things are bad, but they do need to be in alignment. They cannot overpower, right? If we look at the Western world, we see an abundance of wealth. We see, in certain areas, usually they're
Yeah.
But then if you look at the Eastern world, we see these magnificent spiritual giants, these, ascended masters and yogis and people who are incredible of epic spiritual feats. And so, but we can also see that neither of these approaches has proven superior. In fact, they're both lacking if they don't come into harmonious alignment, and that's the power of the heart, right? So exactly, we have to be able to integrate our human with our spirit, and that happens in the heart. That's why the heart is the fourth chakra. It's the bridge between the lower three, which is our human, and the upper three, which is our spirit. And if we can live from that place, we don't have to deny our human, right? Like in the East, we see like asceticism where people are denying the body and they're starving the body, or they're harming the flesh, and they're somehow punishing themselves for being human. And then here we see this like money, sex, power, sort of like at the denial of compassion and empathy. And so we have to find a way, human beings have to find a way to honor both, right?
And when you honor both and you have a fully actualized chakra system, that is when the sacred masculine and divine feminine are in love, and you have alchemical marriage and divine union and bliss.
Yeah,
You maintain it, right?
that's our
And
birthright.
then
our
we
birthright.
graduate in a sense from just the human and those emotional realities to realize there's these other planes of existence, and with beings that have already, let's say, graduated and are here to help, and we make ourselves available to that awareness. It's there's something right here that's palpable within that ascension process.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Kristin?
I agree that I agree with you. I believe that these higher intelligence is available to us, but we have to be in a vibrational match. And so if we're polluting our bodies, if we're really not honoring other people or their bodies, and we're not on even playing field for these higher frequencies. So we have to get ourselves into alignment. We have to return ourselves to what is sacred. And then as we do, the validation comes to us, like Jojo was saying, with, synchronicity and like beautiful relationships, and sort of like when we do the work, the world outside of us will reflect the inner work back to us.
So we are waking up to a magical world, because these conversations, people like you two, that you could have stayed that other person, right? You could have. Not that you would, but it's like, but there was magic that happened for you both that's just added to the magic of the world, and that's infectious in a way.
And part of it was just destiny for us on this soul journey in this lifetime, that maybe not so much of it was even choice. It was just an allowance to surrender to what we were being called to, and rise to the call, answer the call.
So as you work in the world, Kristin, are you going to be writing more books? Do you want to do lecture? Tell us. I want to know what you want to do, so I can help you create that.
What are you manifesting next?
And what's your desires? What's your greatest desire for this little being's mission here on planet Earth?
I am working on another book. This one is aimed towards children, because I feel like if we can, it's easier to help a child stay connected to the essence that they already are than it is to help an adult reclaim the essence. I think so. I kind of want to shift my focus a little bit and kind of just keep the magic in childhood, keep them connected to the magic while they're young. So I'm working on a fairy tale. And again, all of my work is based off the chakra system, because I think that that's just a very simple, easy to understand map of human consciousness. I would love to lecture. I just would love to share love in infinite ways, however they decide to move through this vessel, whether it's speaking, teaching, like writing, painting, just expressing the soul in human form and reminding people that this is available to everybody. We just have to desire it. I didn't want to desire a life that wasn't fun or wasn't fulfilling or just felt like heavy. Life is going to feel heavy at times, but if you have a way to reconnect to what you love, you have a way to reconnect to light. And our job is to be light in human form. That's enlightenment, right? Like you said, Alan, it's you want to be around people. I would rather be around someone who's inspiring and positive and optimistic than someone who is heavy and dense and negative. And that's not a judgment. That's just a gravitational force.
Yeah, anyone would say that.
But what is the hardest, if you want to share, what is the hardest thing for you to do or be or that comes up in your reality?
For me, it's like discipline and like grounding, right? Like pinpointing what I want to do next in the form of like one thing. Because as a creative being, I see infinite potentials. So limiting those potentials into like one thing is probably my greatest struggle. Like that's why it took me 10 years to write the book.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And what's yours? What's your greatest struggle?
Patience.
Patience with people, you mean?
No, not with people at all. I think patience with divine time, with divine design, because I see what's coming before it comes, and I know what is already created and manifested, and I want to be a part of it now. So every year, instead of a resolution, I pick a word, and that word is my intention, and I embody that word throughout the
What's
whole
the
year.
word of the year?
So my word for 2022 is now.
Now.
Right. And I've never been so plugged in and tuned in and than right now, because now is all that exists. And it's given me tremendous ease and calm, and I think is actually creating more in the future, because I'm projecting and vision casting from a state of allowance and abundance and calm. So it's ironic, right? You do less to get more.
That's good, because its abundance is right here. I mean, it's right
Yes.
here. My difficulty is staying focused because there's so much I want to do. I feel like a little kid being pulled in all these different directions. And there's things I want to do. I want to, complete this next book I'm doing, and
What's your next
articles.
book?
And what's that?
I'm curious about your next book. What are you working on?
Well, it's a continuation of the UFO theme, but really what happens to people when they go through this transformation of contact, of
My time mold.
like your time mode. Yeah, or like when you really meet these beings, there's trauma. It can be, for some people, trauma. And as you go through that, there's the trauma. Another part of consciousness awakens. It's like, what was it that was traumatic? Is that the old sense of self wasn't what we thought it was. You're in the presence of beings that they're not infinitely more expanded, because we have that potential, but they have activated a potential, this is my experience, that is so far beyond what most of us think of as self. And when the trauma is seeing the limitation of our own identification of self and being awakened to so much more that's possible. So that's sort of where I'm going. And it also creates, it actually activates a creative potential. When you get through that and you come out the other side, there's the universe is somehow more complex in some ways, but so is the mind that's able to grasp that level of complexity.
That's the question, right? Is humanity ready for that expansion of consciousness?
I would say yes, because it wouldn't be coming if we weren't ready, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that what you were thinking?
Yes, exactly. Like we're expanding, we're stretching, we're becoming more open to new possibilities.
But why are we asking the question, are we ready? Because maybe some people aren't. You're right.
I think that's part of the mission, is to like ready, like, you know what I mean? Like, make it less scary, make it more, like ease and flow and trust and have faith. And it's an integrative process. Like
Prime people.
Yeah. Like we can be the middle, like,
it's
like, I don't even know how to put it into words. I can feel it energetically. Like we can begin to be the conduits to show other people that this expansion, if it happens too much, too quick, that's usually what scares people. Like if it's sudden and intense, it can be scary, but if it's gradual, if it's integrated, so like we can be the medium through which the new consciousness is integrated. Like lightning, I think I give an example in the book, like of lightning rods. Like if lightning is coming down onto the planet and it's just scattered, it can create a lot of destruction because it disrupts everything. This new consciousness is kind of like, it's like a highly charged electricity in the sky. And if it comes down and it's just striking erratically, it can create a lot of damage. But human beings can ready themselves as like lightning rods, right? We can do the work to purify our energy field. We can do the yoga. So we can become the lightning rod. So this new consciousness can come down with the least amount of destruction as possible. And that's, I think, why when the Kundalini happens, it feels like this charge, like this, because you're like acting as like a conduit for this new expansion. And it doesn't have to be as scary or destructive. Maybe, I don't really know.
No, you do know. But actually, as you were talking, the vision was coming to me of what we could do if we decide to do a retreat, the three or of us, or maybe more, is to allow that expansion in each other's presence, ascending together, to come through. Somehow you just, I don't know, what, as you were talking there, I felt the possibility of a group of us expanding together, being welcoming that, and also feeling the support of each other if if it gets too much, or but to just open up and be the vehicles of that divine light, be it in the presence of that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Isn't that fun?
Yes.
I'm,
We don't
I'm
have to do
thinking,
anything. We just
yeah,
allow. We just allow.
What are you thinking?
Master potential activation for high conscious practitioners, right? Where
Well,
where it is, we are also receiving exactly what we need, and it's as beneficial to us as our guests.
yeah. I was around this incredible shaman once, part of the Carlos Castaneda tradition. Do you know the Castaneda tradition?
No, I just keep having this vision. I was going to ask if you had a past life as a shaman. I keep seeing this very specific shaman image around you. So when you just
Oh,
said that, I'm like,
that's why you smiled. Oh, okay. No, I definitely feel shamanic in some way. When I really understood what shamans were, and it's not just a name, they're able to, like a shaman can talk to a plant, and the plant will talk back. You just have to empty yourself and be ready for that receiving of that, and be in that receivership, or talk to the moon or the sun. These are reflections of our thoughts that send us back information. I think that's what a shaman does. So I was at this retreat once with do you know who Carlos Castaneda was, the Toltec tradition? Well, these women there were part of that Toltec tradition. There was a woman named Florinda and Tasha and Carol Tiggs, and she was doing a transmission, and she said this is what happened to her when her body disappeared. Like, she was, I'm not even sure why I'm saying this, but anyway, she was transmitting this force from this older ancient shaman who was thousands of years old that had given to her, and then she had disappeared. She says for 10 years she was off planet, and so she was looking at me with this left eye, through the left eye, and felt something strange happening. And then I was telling the story to a friend, and we're just sitting there, and I felt like that presence, and I felt then my body start to dissolve, to actually dematerialize, and it just like freaked me out. I said, "Oh," and I felt it. The other person sitting next to me felt the same thing. It's like we moved the assemblage point. I think I'll teach a course on the assemblage point, but we moved the assemblage point to this other realm and dimension, and we started to dematerialize, and I wasn't ready. It's like it goes back to, and I think being in a group of people, if you see that happening, say, okay, you're ready, just go for it.
Right. Encourage, support.
I'm not saying, I think we'll come back, but it's like.
But to manipulate matter and to be okay with that and not fear it. As soon as fear comes into the equation, that's when we lose the miracle.
For me, I guess it was fear, but it was a little like, oh, this is really happening. It's like it kind of freaked me out a little bit, but.
And what did you not want to let go of here?
Well, it just sort of came on all of a sudden. If I think I was prepared, then I would be ready for something, for another, but we're.
Initiation.
It was an initiation.
It is. It's scary to let go, to fully, completely surrender. There was a time where I was very, very into this work, the holotropic breath work, and the extreme sort of activation of the energy field. And the first couple of times that I like completely left my body, I chilled out a little bit doing the breath work and the meditation, because it's scary. It's terrifying to the ego, because the ego is how we know ourselves in this reality. And if we completely let it go, it doesn't mean that we
What's
don't
on the other side?
it's the fear of the unknown, and that's the ego's greatest threat,
Yep.
is to fully surrender. And so I think you're onto something, Alan, with having a group doing that together, because the group holds
Yes.
density.
Yeah, and it's also a support for the evolution. I mean, it's we do have to do it on our own ultimately, but having people on the journey, walking along,
Together.
yes, on parallel paths. And that's what we're all doing. That's what our work in the world, that's what Heal the People are about. We're the people that are being healed and sending out the healing. So,
That's right.
so let's do something like that. Let's do a retreat and
I'm
bring,
game.
okay, maybe
So we're
this
going to
summer.
call in some beautiful sacred space, bed and breakfast.
Yeah, like a retreat center place.
Mm-hmm.
I do know one in upstate New York. But anyway, let's see, and we'll put out the word, and we'll just call it, the empowerment of light, or whatever comes to call it.
I love that.
Heal the people, ascend together, ascension. Or, but thank you, Kristin, for, I mean, in a way, being brave, because you broke out. There was like probably not many people around you. I mean, you had your community, but I feel like you kind of did it on your own. Did you?
I was really young. I was the youngest, even just to stay in the energy medicine school. I was the only person really in my 20s. But that's why I think, kind of to JoJo's point earlier, I think it was like a soul thing. I think it was just sort of like my soul already contracted it, and I was just willing to listen.
But it was still, I mean, did you feel like you were alone doing it? Because I get the sense that you sort of did do it on your own.
For a really long time, I was kind of I was the hermit, like I was alone doing the spiritual work. But you have to be brave to follow your heart, because the heart, it's like, if the path is already paved for you, it's not your path. Someone else already walked it. You have to pave your own path. And so it's like, Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. No one else is going to slay your dragons for you.
Right.
So I think we've all done that in our own way. Decided, kind of like to John Stetson, like the fool, right? The fool, no one else is going to walk off that cliff for you. No one else is going to fully incarnate into your human experience. But if you've got a bunch of other people that are doing it in their own way, it makes you feel brave enough to do it too. And so I'm proud of all of us for courageously doing the work.
Slaying the dragon, that's just image, just like, what are the dragons that we have to slay?
They'll be different for everybody.
No, but I'm just thinking about, like, that's in the way of the next level of a possibility.
Yeah, it's like our own limitations, our own
Fear.
beliefs and
Fear is
limitations.
the biggest dragon. If we collectively, individually, energetically, emotionally, mentally, physically slay fear, that is the nemesis to freedom.
But what is, I mean, you don't have to do it now, but maybe we could do this on the retreat. What is that fear? What is the
Right.
What is the
What
name?
is it tethered to in each individual
what's the specific
consciousness?
situation?
Yeah, in the subconscious. And through the RTT, that's what we go back and delete.
But also in the conscious mind, not just the subconscious, like what is the, in the way, maybe not,
That's very individual for
it's
everybody.
individual, but I think to share that is also freedom. I'm
Yeah.
just thinking, letting go of something, maybe
Yeah, just
even letting
catching
go of New
yourself.
York.
Like, where do we hold ourselves back? Because every
Mhm.
single one of us has a desire, has a dream, has a vision. And where does that belief come in that says, well, I can't have that, or I can't do that, or I can't, where do we stop ourselves?
But to name it, I think, is important. We could play out the question, but like in a retreat kind of situation, we say, okay, name it if you can. Just by naming it, you start to free yourself a little bit,
Absolutely.
am I ready to let go of New York City? I mean, like that. It's like, or whatever else, to really receive abundance, that's like. And the other thing I would love to do is for people to name their superpower. What is their special gift? What's your superpower, JJ?
People, beings can come forth in the human body around me and just completely be.
And what about you, Kristin?
Like optimism.
Oh,
I love that. That is a superpower, girl.
That is.
Yeah,
That
no
is.
matter what's happening, I can somehow find some sort of optimism. But also, we did this in healing school. I named her my superpower, clear vision. So like the ability to see through bullshit, to see through limitation, to see through projected imagery of what people want you to believe is happening, and have a really clear vision on the truth, like owl medicine.
Owl medicine. I think.
And what's yours?
Thank you for asking. I think I really love connecting the dots. Someone here
The
needs
detective.
Yeah, but also it's like that old game of cards where you have two decks and you turn them all face down. You have to pick a card here and find the card in the other deck. It was called concentration.
I like that. Yeah.
And so that was made a big influence. How do I connect the people that need each other, like here and there, and from there, whatever happens. But I've been happy to do that, and other things too. We all have many superpowers, but that's just. But I mean, thank you for sharing yours, Kristin, and your enthusiasm is just very genuine, real, and joyful.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I could talk to you guys about this stuff forever. So
For days, for a retreat.
Yes.
days.
So if you're listening on the YouTube, you say, like, if you want to be part of something like that, just email me at newrealities@earthlink.net. Or, you could text me on Facebook or wherever. And Jojo, talk about what's coming up for you and your...
So where Kristin has become such an integral part of Ascension Together and a motivating, supportive, encouraging, like-minded sister in my life is I am addicted to her wellness center. I love it. I want to have everything there that's in person. So the next event we have is April 16th, and that's a group RTT session for stepping into your highest self, reclaiming your sovereignty. There will be loads of Heal the People available there at that event.
What does that mean, Heal the People available? Who are
the
they?
book.
Heal the People book, sorry.
And then we have our mutual friend Peter Moon coming to do a Qigong workshop on May 7th. So that's the upcoming live event. Ascension Together gets to hold at Quantum Health and Wellness.
I thought you meant Heal the People. People will be there. The Heal the People.
Well, we're all the people.
They will be.
We're all the people, yes.
And you also have the weekly groups.
Oh yeah, Steve and I do a weekly Miracle Minded Forgiveness class. That's an 8-week curriculum that him and I curated ourselves. And then we also do a weekly an experience in A Course in Miracles. He's been a student of the course 15 years. We should schedule him for here.
Oh yeah,
next,
I like him. Yeah.
He's such just a wealth of knowledge and non-duality and living in the miracle and choosing the miracle, and the infinite observer meditation that he does is so powerful.
So what's the way? How do people find you? All that.
ascensiontogether.org. There's an events page. There's what's RTT, Rapid Transformational Therapy.
Which JJ is.
Yeah. And You can schedule a free discovery call with me to talk about anything that you might want to address and delete those old files and reprogram your upgrade.
Great. And what else is coming up for you at the center, the Quantum Health and Wellness Center in
We have all sorts of stuff happening all the time. So I just encourage people to check out the event section on the website quantumhw.com, because we always have amazing people like yourselves, and you never know what's going to happen here. So
Truly.
Great. And you're there every day, pretty much? Is it 7 days a week?
pretty much we take Monday and Tuesday to decompress, but we're here Wednesday through Saturday, and there's always different, I mean, we do all sorts of different things. So we do.
And your
breakfast
husband
groups. Yeah, and my husband
has
he-
amazing tattoo.
Yeah, Mike Johnston tattoo. He's on another level when it comes to tattooing his and just creative expression. You know, he set up my backdrop. Everything is art. And it's kind of fitting that our center used to be an art studio. So it's in the energy of the space. So creating.
Right. Well, I definitely want to go back there, do some more, and let's talk about this idea of what we can all do together.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Thank you.
you
Kristin.
guys so much for having me. It was so
Love
good to chat with
you.
you.
Great.
I'll see you soon.
Remember, heal the people. Kristin Johnston coming out soon. Get it and be part of the movement. Be part of the team, the tribe.
The tribe. I love you guys.
Love you.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.